It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
So he lied.
Today's show is sponsored by Do-It-Yourself Pet Taxidermy Kit. You'll never have to say goodbye to Mr. Sprinkles again.
6:07 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday. Rinse and repeat.
Warning. This show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco.
We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name.
That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
There are times, it's just a weekend, I'm just enjoying myself. I really don't watch much in the way of news during the course of the weekend because I'm trying to relax a little bit. But sometimes a story pops up, and it makes me stop and say to the television or wherever I'm getting that news from, hey, thank you for the show prep. I appreciate this because I got Monday. I had no idea how I was going to start the program today. And lo and behold, Monday morning, or Sunday night, I should say, I hear that, oh, Joe pardoned Hunter. And I thought the same thing that many of you thought. Oh, so he lied again. Now, we will go through the president's statement. One line in particular I'm going to point out. When the president released a statement about the pardon, and in that statement, the president talks about what an honest person he is, which, as you know, Joe Biden has never been an honest person, ever. One of the most corrupt politicians in the history of U.S. politics, and one of the biggest liars ever. Let's go back to this one.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know.
Really?
And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. And I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
And I will not pardon him. Oh, okay. I will abide by the jury decision, and I will not pardon him. That's what he said. Let's see. Is this one? I'm trying to find it. Yep, I think I've clicked on it here. So here's from, the president here. Introduction. Okay, this goes down through all the conclusions, what he was found guilty of, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So in this, as the president sent out basically a press release explaining why he did this, one of the lines in there that I really got to laugh. I mean, I know you've done it. You're laughing out loud in your living room at something you just heard on television, whatever it might be. I laughed out loud when the president got to the part about what a decent, honest man he is. The president himself. Also, what he just said there, what you just heard there about his son, he's proud of his son. I don't know why. And calls his son a decent, honest man. I don't know how he figures that. But then again, Joe Biden considers himself to be a decent, honest man. Yeah, Jim and Casper. Career of lying. Yeah, actually, yeah. Chet and Yoder, Joe Biden always has been, always will be a liar. Simple Man and Casper. That is one hell of an extensive pardon on Hunter Biden, which is true, it is. All the way back to 2014. Now, there's going to be a lot of people looking into, extended powers and so on. That's something that I've wondered about, too. When a president issues a pardon, it's one thing to say, I'm going to pardon my son on the gun charge. I'm going to pardon my son on tax evasion, because that's what he was found guilty of. But anything else he might have done and might be found guilty of in the future, he's pardoned. this made me wonder when I heard that. So exactly how far does a pardon go? I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever tested the limitations on that. How far exactly does a pardon go? To any future crimes? So I'm just wondering about this, thinking out loud now. So if Hunter Biden were to go rob a liquor store tonight, does it cover that? Okay, because anything that might pop up in the future is part of it. That's pretty damn sweeping there, what he did. So it will have to be looked into. What exactly does a pardon cover? How far can this go? Does the president actually have that kind of a power to do that many things? But here's, to me, what stuck more than anything else. Because we can talk about the criminal charges and Hunter Biden not going to jail and so on. I think there's certain liberals out there who will never get it. They're never going to get it. They're not. But for those people out there who actually do think, and there are many liberals who also do think, those are the ones that often vote Democrat, but this past election they decided, we just can't vote Democrat anymore. We can't. It's not possible. We just can't do this anymore. So they went ahead and voted for Trump. And I doubt these people are big-time MAGA hat wearers like a lot of you out there, but they just couldn't go with the Biden administration anymore. They couldn't go with the lies and deceits and the wokeism and et cetera, et cetera. This has just gone too far. So while they're not big-time Republicans, they can't do this anymore. And when Biden goes ahead and pardons his son and then feeds us a load of buffalo manure to try to justify it, those Democrats, once again, are looking at their former party and going, you know, that just shows why I left in the first place. And if they did, I don't know, most of them will never do it. But if they were to dig back into the life of Joe Biden, they would find a history of lies and corruption. And they would, like I do, like many of you do, wonder, how the hell did this guy get so far all the way to President of the United States? Joe Biden should have not just been run out of politics, but thrown in jail decades ago. The fact that he wasn't shows how bad our political system in America has gotten, which is one of the reasons why I constantly talk about limited government. Limit the power of these people so they don't have anything to seize power with. They can't get into office and do what you've just seen here. Morning, John, Heidi, John, and Granite Canyon. Morning, Glenn. Biden pardons Hunter. I'm shocked, I tell you. One more from CNN.
Yeah, and Jeff, of course, we don't have to remind people how close-knit this family is, and that Hunter is his only surviving son, that they are, of course, very, very close. And we've heard many stories about the last several years, how they talk daily and many times a day.
Okay, so yeah, apparently they're very close, which is why he did. But let's go back again. Hang on, let me find that piece that I just played for you moments ago, where... wait, see that. I'm going to be interested to see. I'm sorry, I distracted myself. When we get to the White House press briefing today, what do you think his top press briefer is going to say about this? How is she going to cover up for his lies?
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Okay, so because right there, even she said during a White House press briefing, he's not going to pardon his son. Now she's going to have to clean up that mess. That's really going to be interesting. How the hell does she clean up that mess? I don't know. But that's what's going to happen when we get to today's White House press briefing. She's going to have to sit down, or stand up, if you will, in front of the press, and she won't do it. You know she won't do it. She's not going to turn and say, I'm sorry, but the President of the United States lied. She won't do that. She should. I mean, she's going out for that matter. I mean, her job is over soon. Just go ahead and get it over with. I've been trying to cover up for this liar my entire career, is what she should say.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter.
Don't know why.
He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the greatest, most decent men I know.
Not decent.
And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision.
And
I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Okay, and yet you did. So, once again, Joe Biden has lied, but he will never admit to it.
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir. How about you? Not a thing, sir. What about you guys? We ain't found...
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
Okay, so I assume that a lot of talking heads will be going through Hunter Biden's history as well as some of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's history regarding all the charges against Hunter, and that's fine. Let them go ahead and do that. I have a slightly different take on this. But first off, let's review.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the greatest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Okay, he's one of the most decent men I know. Okay. All right, so let's go back and see the other one that I played for you just a moment ago, which I think it's absolutely perfect because at some point, here we go, the spokeswoman for the White House, every day she gets up in front of the press and she just lies, you know. So I want to know today how she's going to cover up this. This is good. You can imagine the moment, in fact, even before the president signed the pardon, the White House staff was trying to figure how are we going to spin this. So here's what she has to spin. This is a quick two-parter.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Okay, so you heard that there. Okay, so they lied. Again, which is typical. And we all know they lied. To me, this whole thing is less about Hunter Biden. And it's more just about the kind of people that get into politics in general. Not just in our own Washington, D.C., but worldwide throughout human history. These are the kinds of people who get into politics throughout human history. We can't trust them, which is one of the reasons our founding fathers created a system of limited government. The whole point of the limitations, the whole point of the Constitution, for that matter, is to limit the amount of power that these people are allowed to have, because we know who they are. They're opportunists. They're going to get into power because they want power, and they want the money that comes with the power. That power means over you, and also as much of your money as they can possibly get. They're going to enrich themselves. This is what they do. They will take advantage of the system for themselves, and they will lie, cheat, steal, murder, whatever it takes. This is far worse than I watched a little bit this weekend of one of the Godfather movies. And the Godfather movies are based on actual events and real people. And as horrible as the mafia is, take a look at some of the people that get into government. This is why in America we're supposed to have a limited government. Now, we do have an opportunity with the second Trump administration with who Trump has brought in. I don't think he's going to fix everything, but he can put us on track to fix a lot. And what I've been saying for many years that I've been on the air is there's actually a simpler way to fix this than you might think. Cut off the money. Cut off the power. Don't let them have it. Go back to the limited government that the United States started with. So when these people who are power and money hungry try to take office, whether they want to be a senator or a president, part of the bureaucracy, whatever it might be, if they manage to get the job, which there wouldn't be many jobs to take, but if they manage to land one of those jobs, they're going to be really disappointed in how little they're allowed to do, how little money we give them, how little power we give them, the checks and balances that keep them in line. So if they want to be a bunch of lying, corrupt, thieving, et cetera, they're going to have to go somewhere else to do it. They're not going to be able to do it in government. Joe Biden he got into power in the 70s. Back when Jimmy Carter became president, Joe Biden became a senator, and has spent his entire career every bit as bad as you see him today. He has always been a naive, flat-out stupid, lying, conniving, etc., words I can't say on the air. And yet, look how far that took him in Washington, D.C. with the corrupt system that we have. If anything, this is a beautiful time to clean house. And this, what just happened with Hunter Biden, is a perfect illustration of why we need to get rid of these people and make sure that they don't come back. We have a marvelous opportunity here in America to clean house over at least the next 4 years. So let's take advantage of that. All right, so Jim and Casper, a decent man wouldn't have taken up with his dead brother's wife. Coming up on some local news we have to take care of after local news. We're going to roll into a weather forecast after that. This whole week is supposed to be actually pretty mild and nice as far as our weather is concerned, with a high-pressure system over top of us. Spoiler alert. Don Day will explain that. Even with an extended forecast at 6:45, it's Wake Up Wyoming.
Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, once again, Biden proves himself to be a liar by pardoning his son, and that's going to be a good topic for a while. But I think it's just the final cherry on top of everything we've always known about Hunter Biden and liberals. Sometimes I feel sorry for him. I do. Sometimes I actually do. They're going to spend the rest of the week trying to talk themselves out of this one. It's just going to be hysterical to watch. So, morning, Doug. Doug is in Cheyenne. All the corrupt swamp people Joe has been associated with in the last 50 years, Hunter probably does look pretty decent to him. Yeah. And you're echoing what Jim and Glen Rock said. When Joe Biden says his son is one of the most decent people he knows, he's not lying. But he's saying a lot about the people around him. See, the two of you are pretty much on the same page on that one. So, my son, one of the most decent people. You don't know what decent is, Joe. God, I mean, think about this for a minute. When Joe Biden called you garbage, you, talking to you personally, he called us all garbage. That means you too. When Joe Biden called us garbage, honestly speaking, I thought, no, Joe, the majority of the people out here are really decent people. If you want to know who garbage is, look to your son, Joe. Look at yourself, Joe. That's what garbage looks like, and I'm glad to be rid of it finally. Okay, now, I'm sure they're going to hit a couple more surprises on the way out the door. That's going to be fun. Just something on the side to make you think. Someone noticed this today, or maybe this weekend, and posted it, and I thought, wow. You ever read, I used to do this when newspapers were a big thing. I used to love to flip through, when I picked up the daily paper as a kid. First I'd go to the comics. Then for the fun of it, I would go read my horoscope. I didn't believe in horoscopes, I still don't. I just thought it was fun to read the horoscope, to see, what are they telling me? Which, of course, is always so vague. That's the only way they can write those things, right? So for those people I do know people who really do believe in horoscopes, believe it or not. So here is a picture of Greta Thunberg. Yeah, the cult of climate change princess, as I call her, the Virgin Greta, because every religion has to have its version of the Virgin Mary. So that's what she is. Okay, then the date she was born, January 3rd, 2003. That's when she was born. Okay. underneath that is a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse. Remember him? He's the young man who used a gun to defend himself against a bunch of liberals who were physically attacking him. Remember him? Okay, the big trial. Kyle Rittenhouse, same birthday, January 3rd, 2003. And someone wrote above that, this really destroys the whole Zodiac system because, and it does. You talk about two completely different people, but they were born under the same exact sign. So your whole idea for those who want to look up, what kind of a personality am I? Well, when were you born? Under what sign were you born? That'll show you what kind of a person you are. Apparently not. But I would love for those two to get together and have kids. Can you imagine what that would turn out mean? Extreme leftist Greta and extreme right Kyle. They would have a kid that would be like right down the middle, right? Wouldn't they? I'm not sure how that works. Although I think Kyle knows just to stay out of the room with Greta because she's just, in general, poison. But to me, yeah, anybody who thinks that the Zodiac is you can go ahead and take a look at your birthday. For me, it's October 30th. Now, when I and I was always told this by people who do believe in the whole Zodiac thing. Well, Glenn, you're a Scorpio with Virgo rising. Whatever the hell that means. I don't know what that means. But that's supposed to tell what kind of a personality type I am. Now, the only one that ever really did, when you go to a Chinese restaurant, take a look at what year you're born. That's also supposed to, if you're born in this year, then you're this kind of a. So I was born in Year of the Dragon. That's my Chinese zodiac. And when I sit there at a Chinese restaurant looking at the menu, the placemat, and the placemat says that I'm Year of the Dragon, and I read the vague outline of what Year of the Dragon is supposed to be. Gosh, that sounds just like me. Yeah, of course it does. You write something vague enough? You know, a word salad, right?
Covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
We go Frank Gambino's waiting by. Frank's, I saw some video this weekend out of Buffalo, New York before the game.
It was snowing.
Yes, a lot.
Prior to the game where the Bills played the 49ers last night, they had already gotten 18 inches of snow.
Wow.
Already, before the game started.
Okay.
And it's though they had to shovel like the yard lines every 5 yards, and then Josh Allen had a great TD in the snow, and so the adults, I think, the kids like to play in the snow.
Yeah.
The adults, no.
Not so much. No one wants to clean that up. I mean, you think about it when I was looking at the stands, and they had machines down on the field, and they got to get all that snow out of that bowl and take it somewhere else.
Out, somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. Or pile it up. You know, Western New York, they get snow that it would almost be like Yellowstone.
Okay.
How much snow they get.
That's right.
It's that all that lake effect thing. And I was out there did a football game in Syracuse. They have like a little contest between Buffalo, Syracuse, and Watertown. Right. You know, who gets the most snow in 1 year, and it's like 70, 80 inches or something like that.
Okay. So they managed to get that out of there, and they managed to actually have a game.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Okay.
The snow's not going to stop anybody in Buffalo.
Right.
Unless you can't physically get through. There was 1 year that some of the fans were trying to go dig out the players from their house to bring them to practice.
So, I was watching that thing, and I was like, okay, I must be the wimp here, because I'm watching all that snow coming down into the stadium, and them attempting to clean it up, but it's piling up as fast as they're cleaning it. And I'm thinking, I would have just called the game and said, forget it, we can't do this. But not Buffalo.
No, and not TV either.
Right. And then
say, if we can get on the air, you get on the field.
Yes, okay. So because there's a lot of money to be had here.
Yes.
And also the fans still show up. I mean, to them it's a game.
Yeah, I went to a snow game before, and you're just covered in snow.
Okay.
That's the way it is.
Do snowball fights break out?
Some,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some, yeah.
I figure if you're going to sit there with all of that, you might as well get into snowball fights between you and as soon as you hear somebody screaming and cheering for the other team.
Then throw snowballs
you
at them.
Ball one up and you go ahead and haul it at them. So, okay. And I would bet that the water boy has to keep the thing from freezing over the entire time he's down there.
That's another issue,
thing. But, so who won?
Buffalo did.
Buffalo did. Well, of course, because they know how to play in the snow.
Of course they did. Well, the Wyoming Cowboy football team closed the season with a nice win at Washington State on Saturday in Pullman. Cowboys won at 15-14 with a 14-play, 90-yard drive to end the game pretty much. Quarterback Evan Swoboda found John Michael Gillenborg on 4th down from 18 yards out for a touchdown to give the Cowboys a 1-point win. Swoboda in for the injured Caden Anderson went 21-34 for 206 yards, and he was also sacked 6 times and threw 1 interception. John Hoyland kicked 3 field goals in the game for the Cowboys. And the Pokes the defense actually did a really nice job against Washington State. They held them to 182 yards passing and 103 yards rushing. It's a great way to finish a bad season. At least the Cowboys didn't mail it in. It gives them some momentum heading into next season, but at 3-9 on the year, this was their worst season since 2015 when they went 2-10. Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls beat Virginia in the last game of that tournament in Puerto Rico this last week, 71-66. Malene Peterson with 23 points and Allison Fertig with 22. So the Cowgirls won 2 out of 3 in that tournament. They beat Drake and then lost to Norfolk State, then beat Virginia. That's their first win over an ACC school. That's pretty cool. So they will host Missouri State on Friday. And the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team back on Wednesday lost to Loyola Marymount 73-70 in the Cancun tournament. Obi Agban at 23 points. Now the Cowboys in this game at one point trailed by 16 and then 1 point trailed by 10. And then just LMU made some plays down the stretch to win that game. So the Cowboys will be at Utah State and Logan to open up Mountain West Conference play. That'll be coming up on Wednesday. And that's in sports.
I would like to thank our UW team for finishing on a good note.
Yes. Yeah, it's very helpful. I mean, everyone has some kind of sense of accomplishment, and they really played hard when they had nothing to play for.
Right.
Nothing except pride. And they went on the road and they beat them. Okay. You know, where have you been? You know?
As I've said before, though, if you're going to go down in flames looking good. And there's a way to do that. And they showed that, too. They went down in flames, Frank, but they look good doing it.
It makes for a better ride home, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But now they have to start thinking about what the hell are we going to do to fix this for next year.
Well, yeah, and there's going to be some players, one of them are already entering the transfer portal. A lot of kids are going to leave, and they have got to work this transfer portal in their favor, the Cowboys. There's going to be a lot of extra players out there because the roster sizes are smaller next year due to NCAA rules now. There's going to be a lot of good players looking for homes next season, and Wyoming needs to offer them, say, hey, you can come here and play right away, and if you come here with a few of your friends, we can win here. You got to be able to convince these guys to come, because you're going to lose players yourself.
Same coaches?
They know that they had a rough season.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering, does anyone get rotated out?
Maybe. But they knew they had a rough season.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. And we'll roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Yeah, I still have a few things to say about the Biden pardon, but then some other news too. It's not going to be a one-topic show at all. So some local business, then national news, local news, update on the weather forecast right after that. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 6 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Monday, so rinse, repeat, and the president lies again. Here we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Do-It-Yourself Pet Taxidermy Kit. You'll never have to say goodbye to Mr. Sprinkles again.
Okay, kind of disturbing and gross, but hey, it's affordable.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
So I just want to get into this because as the Hunter Biden story continues to unfold, the president pardoning his son, which of course means the president lied, more and more people are responding in ways that I think are really interesting. I didn't hear a lot last night, but now the comments are rolling in. So for those who might have missed it, if you missed this story yesterday, please send me your address because I want to use Google Earth to look up what rock you live under. Maybe we can turn it over for you. But okay, so here's the president before he pardoned his son.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Okay, now, by the way, brightest, most decent men I know. I have to agree with those people who were sending me notes earlier this morning, first hour of the program. If Hunter is the brightest, most decent person that Joe Biden knows, it makes sense, considering who Joe Biden hangs out with. Now, let's listen to this.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Okay, so they're going to have to unpack all of this today. The Democrats are really going to have a hard time justifying this. I can't wait to see what MSNBC does with it, too. This is going to be so much fun. Because once again, Joe Biden has spent a career as a liar, one of the most corrupt men in politics. So this is no surprise, right? Now, Representative James Comer, I'm going to read this, then I'm going to go on to some other stories because I don't want a one-topic day. There's only so much we can really say about this. But James Comer said, Joe Biden has lied from the start to finish about his family's corruption, influence, peddling, and activities. I'll read that again with a better flow because that wasn't good. Joe Biden has lied from start to finish about his family's corrupt influence, peddling, and activities. Not only has he falsely claimed that he never met with his son's foreign business associates and that his son did nothing wrong, but he also lied when he said he would not pardon Hunter Biden. The charges against that Hunter faced were just the tip of the iceberg in a blanket of corruption that the president and the Biden crime family have lied about to the American people. It is unfortunate that rather than come clean about their decades of wrongdoing, President Biden has, and his family, continue to do everything they can to avoid accountability. So I think that's one of the best statements on the whole thing. Not surprising at all, which is one of the reasons I am a strong advocate for limited government, because it limits the power that these people have, which limits the corruption and how much money they waste, how much liberty you have. Limited government is the way to go. Because with limited government, Joe Biden would have never had the career that he had, which was nothing but lies and corruption and deceit and money laundering and et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. Moving on to the next thing. Now, this, I'm going to do this for you just because it amuses me. Sometimes it's fun to read the headlines and then just go ahead and look out the window, and I mean that literally, to see what's actually going on. Ladies and gentlemen, with the only hit song he thinks he ever had, here is Al Gore.
You're driving a big car. I come on your radio. I say the end's close. You just say no. I say it's global warming, but you call me a liar. but this planet's on fire.
So here's the latest on this. I told you a few decades ago, it was said, and it was printed again and again and again by your obsolete, irrelevant news media, that the years of snowfall are over. Snow is a thing of the past. We're never going to see it again. In fact, snow would be such an exciting event that when it did happen, you would have to take your kids outside to explain it, because they wouldn't know what it was. Now, obviously, since then, we've had loads of snow. And yes, some years are snowier than other years. It also depends on what part of the planet you're on. Because there's times we're not getting a whole lot of snow here in Wyoming, but other parts of the planet are just being buried. Right now, here in Wyoming, it's been kind of a mild season so far for snow. And that's mainly because of just the way the systems are splitting as they come across North America. Up in Canada, they're buried in snow. Go down to Colorado, buried. Head more west of here, Sierra Nevada mountains, stuff like that, buried in snow. But it's kind of moved around the Wyoming area. We'll get ours. Don't worry about that. So then I came across this headline, which I just thought was absolutely hysterical. It says, "Don't be fooled. Snow is becoming a thing of the past." Okay, they're trying it again. Even though years ago, decades ago, that prediction was made and absolutely wrong. Now they're trying it again. And I found this, when I first found this headline, I found many other news organizations repeating it. It says, if you're like me and look forward to snow as much as you're looking forward to outpatient surgery, then recent winters have been almost blissful in the U.S. Some of us on the East Coast haven't seen any serious snowfall in 2 years. This is contrary to my personal feelings. Not good. Yes, warmer winters, fewer snowstorms mean fewer deaths from cold and the less need to burn fossil fuels, he means organic fuels, to heat our homes. But robust winter provides many benefits. And then he talks about the benefits of high snowpack and so on. So why does this matter? Well, for one thing, people pay good money to play in it for some reason. And he talks about winter sports, basically. And then, pollen and asthma sufferers and yada, yada, yada. This is all due to a climate change thing. Make no mistake about it. Snow is slowly becoming a thing of the past, is basically what this very long article has to say. Then I look at this. Yesterday, someone walked up to me with their phone and showed a live video of Buffalo, New York. I just talked to Frank about this a little while ago. Frank Gambino, our sports guy. Buffalo, New York. They're going to play a football game there. Josh Allen, of course, quarterback, all that. And they're having trouble keeping the snow out of the stadium. They've got machines down on the ground there inside, the field. Machines, big machines, plowing out the snow, and it's falling as fast as they're plowing it. Up in the stands, oh dear Lord, it was hard to tell that there were even seats in the stands. There was so much snow. And as fast as they were clearing it out, it kept it. Now, God bless the people of Buffalo. They cleared that stadium eventually and still had their game with more snow coming down. But snow is the thing of the past, right? Then there's this one. Headline. See, I love stuff like this. Lake effect snow just keeps coming. Heavy lake effect snow dumps more than 5 feet over parts of the Great Lakes region. As biting cold, and this is CNN, as biting cold and temperatures sweep across a large swath of the U.S., parts of the Great Lakes face more than a foot of additional lake effect snow through Tuesday. Now, from Sunday through Tuesday, more than 5 feet of snow fell on parts of western New York last couple of days, according to National Weather Service. And they're going to have more like this through Tuesday. Every day is going to be several feet worth of snow. But snow is a thing of the past. Then, let me see. Like a section of snow dumps. Don't be fooled. 49ers. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the mountains around us. If you go up to Canada, Canadian Rockies, but also directly north. Let's go right up from Wyoming through Montana and the Dakotas into that part of Canada, which is a vast prairie area. It has got a nice thick layer of snow on it right now. South of us, again, I was in Colorado this weekend. And, they got plenty of snow in Colorado, and more is coming. And again, head west of there, go up through the mountains in California and Washington State and so on. And when you take a look at how much snowpack is typically predicted for this time of year, remember just a couple of years ago they were worried about whole reservoirs drying up because they weren't getting enough snow. And they said it would take decades for that snow to replenish itself, and it did it all within one winter. Okay, well, now this is overkill. They've got so much snow up there. But according to this article here, it says, headline, don't be fooled, snow is becoming a thing of the past. Okay. They're just going to keep trying. But you look outside and you see reality.
In the last 11 years, 115 people died of weightlifting accidents in a gym. In that same 11 years, only one person died of eating a donut. Make good choices, people.
Wake Up Wyoming goes anywhere you do with the Wake Up Wyoming app. Free download for Apple and Android. This is K2 Radio.
.23 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Pardon me here. I'm trying to make a connecting call because I had Wyoming Secretary of State Chuck Gray on, and let me see if I have now. Chuck, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're having a little problem with the phone system here, so I had to go through another method, but I got you on. First off,
those phone systems are tricky.
It involves like me having to push buttons and stuff, which normally they don't let me do around here.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when we had our show, it's just that phone system and it messes up your whole show.
It can.
If it is malfunctioning.
Yeah.
It just.
All right.
Anyway, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was fantastic, although I was in a room full of people that I felt like I don't belong here. But then I went up to Estes Park in Colorado, went flying on Sunday. What did you do?
I saw that on Instagram. I spent some time with my family.
Okay.
Had a great time, caught up on a little bit of work on Saturday, and just relaxed and ready, really refreshed, really excited about the coming week, and wanted to talk a little bit about this really troubling report out of Teton County.
Okay, now this has to do, for those who are just catching up, but this is your Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, and this has to do with, I guess, how many, over 100 people that were here in this nation illegally that were let go, and ICE never really got a chance to come pick them up.
The sheriff is not complying with ICE detainer requests up in Teton County. And we saw this coming. I did a video on Wednesday, a little bit about this really disturbing report. When I was in the legislature, we filed a bill 4 years in a row, in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, to ban sanctuary cities and counties because we saw this coming, particularly in Teton County. We also were concerned about Albany County. And every single year when we brought this bill, it went for a floor vote 3 of the 4 times that I brought this bill. And every single time that coalition of the insiders, the radical left, the media would say that this isn't happening here, it'll never happen here, blah, blah, blah. The lines they use, that worn-out slogan that they use on almost every single bill that we try to put forward to advance conservative priorities in Wyoming, and they stopped it. And here we are again, showing that they're wrong. I mean, it is happening in Wyoming. We need to ban sanctuary cities and counties. We need to also nip it in the bud by preventing these sanctuary cities and counties from getting any money. Now, I'm sure President Trump is going to take care of this at the federal level in his second term, but we need to clarify in state law that these sanctuary cities and counties, if they're not going to comply with the law on this, they're not going to get any state money either. And that'll nip it in the bud because that's what they're addicted to. And so I'm calling on the state legislature to pass this bill banning sanctuary cities and counties. It's really important that we bring through this agenda, the second Trump term agenda through the Wyoming State Legislature too. And stopping illegal immigration is a pivotal part of it. And I just think it's a very important thing to point out whenever this group of insiders and the media, when they're just continuously wrong, Glenn, continuously, and they're never going to point it out. And here we see once again that they're wrong, and I think it's important we point it out.
I think it's probably a good idea also because a lot of people who would come into this country illegally and they're looking for work would go to a place like Teton County because there's a lot of really expensive homes there, and they need people to take care of that property inside and out. So there's some jobs for someone who's here illegally. But if you make it illegal to hire illegals, that might solve that problem.
We really need to strengthen this E-Verify and do it across the country. I mean, that was also an amendment I tried to bring when I was a member of the legislature, where we'd have E-Verify on every single job that the state contracted out across all the contractors and subcontractors, and it would strengthen E-Verify across a private industry as well. And the insiders always found a way to stop those amendments and those bills. And so it is an issue, and we're very vulnerable, and it's going to take action. Now, President Trump is going to take action at the federal level, but we also need action from our state and local leaders on this, and that's why it's very important for us to pinpoint the bills, the amendments, what needs to be done in order to stop illegal immigration here in Wyoming and our country.
You think you can get something passed, or I know you're not in the legislature anymore, but you got some influence in the Wyoming House and Senate this time around, something that won't get vetoed by the governor?
Well, I've been talking to members. I asked Representative Singh to bring that bill last year, which he did, and so he brought that bill that we had tried to pass 4 separate times. He brought it last year. And I think it is going to be part of, on the House side, the House Freedom Caucus's conservative agenda in the 2025 legislative session. So I've been talking with them about that. That's part of why I did the video as well, and trying to raise awareness on these issues. Okay. And so I do think it's going to be brought in this 2025 session that is starting on January 14th. Now, in terms of this governor, Glenn, I mean, he's been a disaster.
Listen, you say there's some other things that you wanted to talk about. You want to hold through the break, or was that all you need?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hang on. We got to do some news and weather and all of that. We'll be right back with our Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, coming up on 7:30. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Hey now.
Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Back we go to talk to your Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, who's on the line. Who you wanted to talk about a couple of other things, but I didn't know what they were, Chuck.
Well, Glenn, I wanted to talk a little bit about this Weston County issue that we identified on election night, and I think it's an important thing to pinpoint, because we've been talking about the need for us to have a mode of verification for the election machines, and why it's important to have a mode of verification for the election machines. And that came up on election night. On election night, we received the results from all the counties across Wyoming, and Weston County, in the northeast part of our great state, when was sort of going through their results, found that they had a 90% undervote that they reported, not only to our office, but on their website, on a race. And it was a legislative race. The individual didn't have an opponent, but it was a 90% undervote, which is a clear anomaly. And I don't think that'll ever happen in Wyoming state history, that a candidate will have a 90% undervote in an unopposed race. So we immediately started asking questions. We weren't able to get a hold of the county clerk at first that evening. We ultimately contacted the county sheriff, who was able to ascertain the whereabouts of the county clerk. And the county clerk at first denied that there was any issue. said that the results were accurate. We continued to ask questions, and we had a theory within about a half an hour of what we thought had gone wrong. And what ended up happening was she had used the wrong ballots. The printing of the ballots and the use of the correct ballots is a duty of the county clerk. And she had printed 3 different versions of her ballot, which would have been fine if she had used the final version on Election Day. Instead, she used at different precincts some of the first version of the ballot, and at certain precincts the second version of the ballot. And what that did was it messed up the ballot alignment. And it basically meant that in that race and in that legislative race and the county commission race, that votes for candidates were cast as undervotes, meaning they weren't allocated to a candidate. The machine thought that the person wasn't casting a vote in the race. And it took us 24 hours to sort of prove our thesis that the county clerk had made an error. And ultimately what we did was set up a procedure within 48 hours where the county canvassing board, which canvasses the results, what they ultimately did was conduct a hand count on those affected races, which was the first hand count in Wyoming state history in decades. And it confirmed that there were errors, that quite sizable errors in those 2 races. And I think some of the lessons here is that we have to have a mode of verification for the machines. We have to have some checks on the county canvassing board as well, because the clerk was in denial about this for over a day. And if we hadn't been asking these questions and posed this sort of thesis as to what we thought had gone wrong, I'm not sure the state would have gotten the corrected counts. And so it's very important we learn from what happened, and that's one of the things we're going to be doing. We're always about improvement in the Wyoming Secretary of State's office. So when we put forward our 2025 election integrity agenda, which we're going to be doing very soon, these different experiences inform what we're trying to do. And we're going to be working to ban drop boxes. We're going to be working to have true voter ID. We're going to be working to have these sort of checks on county canvassing boards, which are very important. You have to have those checks and balances, and that's something that we're going to be working on in this upcoming session.
Well, and just real quick here, imagine what would have happened if you had 2 or 3 candidates in that race. That would have really been a mess. Good thing only one person was running, so you knew what the result was going to be. You didn't have to try to sort through to figure out what to do after that.
Well, exactly. And what caught it was the anomaly, that you have a 90% undervote, and I immediately started asking questions, and people across the state were asking questions. But what happens if it was another candidate?
Yeah.
It was not an unopposed race. Well, then, depending on how the results shook down, if it was like 53-47, say, in a 2-candidate race, how would we have known? How would it have been pinpointed? Because that's not an anomaly.
Okay.
And is that happening? I mean, that's why you have to have this mode of verification. And even despite the anomaly, the county clerk up there in Weston County stated that everything was fine and actually submitted to my office around noon on the Wednesday after the election a post-election audit saying everything was fine. Well, that post-election audit, which is an eyeball examination of a certain number of ballots, should have caught that. So our belief, we're investigating right now, the Weston County clerk, exactly what she did. I mean, at that point, she knew there was an issue and still submitted that post-election audit saying that there were no findings. Now, she ended up correcting that the following week, which meant that raises the question, was she even doing it?
All right. Well, it looks like you need a new clerk up there. We'll find out. All right, I got to run, talk to Don Day about the weather.
Glenn, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Wake up.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
We go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So, Don, when we have several nice days in the forecast this time of year, people start getting suspicious.
Well, instead of being suspicious, enjoy it, take advantage of it.
Okay. Meantime, when I take a look at like New York, for example, they're going to get pounded. They did yesterday and for the next couple of days.
Yeah, the lake effect snows are quite impressive. I mean, feet of snow in some localized area. Rule of thumb, you and I talk about this every winter. When they get bad weather on that side of the country, we get good weather.
Okay.
And it takes a good week or so for it to kind of work its way through. So the Great Lakes, the upper Midwest, New England, they're going to be very cold. Even, I mean, temperatures well below average. It'll be some 30s down in Florida this week.
Oh, so, okay. Now, here's the thing. This week, I'm going to be in Florida next week. So if you can...
your timing is good because that's when things flip.
Okay. Now, here's the deal. I was making one of my non-weather person analogies this morning when I was watching your morning podcast. We have a bunch of low-pressure systems all around. It looks like a high-pressure system snuck in, was rolled in from across the court and got stuck in the middle of it. And there it sits, keeping us in a bubble of nice.
Bubble of nice, yeah, and it's going to be really all work week. We'll have a little bit of a front clip to say Friday and Saturday, but I think all it's going to do is kick the wind up and make it a little bit cooler. When we get into Sunday and then into the early parts of next week, about a week from today, should be quite a bit different. We should be colder. We should have some snow chances rolling back in, but it's going to be really hard to talk about anything weather-wise over the next 4 to 5 days.
Okay, see, now keep this good. This is perfect. I can enjoy nice weather. I get to bring it with me down to Florida while you guys suffer in misery here. And then I come back, hopefully it's nice again.
We'll see. And if that happens, then you are the key to nice weather. And then you'll have some explaining to do why you brought the nice weather while we had to deal with the bad.
And I'll have a fresh lottery ticket in my hand at the time, too. All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with Day Weather. So, yeah. A week of nice stuff. That's kind of it. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's over there in the icebox. Okay, so if you would, Frank, let's just take a moment and explain not what went wrong, but what went right with that UW football game.
I was out of town, so I thought Wyoming was going to lose, so I didn't watch.
You didn't even bother.
I didn't bother.
Okay. No, that makes complete sense, but you can understand why I think that's kind of funny, too. This is going to be horrible. And yet you could have watched them win, but you just gave up on it.
You know what? And that is so typical.
Yeah.
I would say this, that they played very good. They played much better on defense. They played with an edge. They got their act together in the last 2 games of the season. You know what? I think more importantly is that they did not mail it in.
Right.
They played hard to at least finish their season with some dignity.
Yeah.
Which they did. They've got a lot of challenges ahead of them, and it's squarely on the coaching staff, squarely. And then they got guys that they're probably going to ship out. They need to get more an upgrade in talent, but at least they finished with dignity.
Yes,
that's when I go golfing, I don't care how poorly I play, but on the last hole, I tell myself, finish with dignity.
Yes.
Not a 7 or an 8, but how about like a 5 or a 4?
Sure.
Because you can actually leave the golf course or leave the football season. You know what? We did something right today.
Well, and for that matter, if you on the last 2 holes do really well, people tend to forget the rest of the game that you played. They just remember the last 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're only, like in sports, you're only really as good as your last game.
Exactly. I was talking about that. I was up flying Sunday with my flight instructor, and one of the things we were laughing about is, if you have a crappy landing, it doesn't matter that the rest of the flight was perfect.
No, that's what they remember.
That's all they remember. And you can have a lousy flight, but you nailed that landing, and you're a hero. So to UW, after just a horrible, and I'm sorry, tell me if I'm picking the wrong word, embarrassing year.
Yeah, it was bad.
Okay. They did at least finish on a high note, and we appreciate that. Sorry that the boot got away.
Yeah, what? They claim that this won't be repeated.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay. You're already sowing the seeds of doubt.
I'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. All right, the Cowboys, the Wyoming Cowboy football team defeated Washington State to end the regular season 15-14 in Pullman on Saturday. Cowboys did what they had to do when they had to do it. A 14-play, 90-yard drive in the last couple of minutes, and Evan Swoboda found John Michael Gillenborg on 4th down with an 18-yard completion for a touchdown. So that's the way to execute. Now, Svoboda, who was the original starter and then filling in for Caden Anderson, was hurt. He won 21 of 34 for 206 yards. He was sacked 6 times and threw 1 interception. John Hoyland had a nice season kicking field goals this year. He had a rough year in 2023, kicked 3 of them. And the Cowboy defense really probably played their best game. They only gave up 182 yards passing and 103 yards rushing. So that's a good way to finish a bad season, but at least, like we were just talking about, at least they finished with some dignity. But that 3-9 mark is their worst record since 2015 when they went 2-10. And the Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team won 2 of 3 in the tournament in Puerto Rico that they were in last week. They defeated the Virginia on the last game, 71-66. Melaine Peterson with 23, Allison Fertig with 22. They will take on Missouri State on Friday. And the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team will start Mountain West play on Wednesday at Utah State and Logan. The Cowboys split their games in the Cancun tournament, beating Tulane and then losing to Loyola Marymount on Wednesday, 73-70. Obi Eggman at 23 points for the Cowboys, who at one point trailed by 16 and then led by 10, and then LMU will pull away at the end. So the Cowboys will be on the road to start Mountain West play on Wednesday at Utah State. That's it in sports.
So at some point, though, let's go to national football. I'm going to have to start asking you who's got this.
Well, Buffalo looks good.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles look good.
Yeah.
Green Bay kind of, what do I want to talk too much about them.
Okay.
Kansas City looks good.
Okay.
The Broncos play tonight. They think they're getting better. There are teams that are getting worse. Okay. So, Kansas City, Baltimore would probably be in it. The Chargers.
Yeah.
On the other side, Philadelphia, Green Bay. San Francisco looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the team, Dallas looks terrible.
What's Tampa doing?
Not bad.
Okay.
I mean, are they contenders to win the whole thing?
No.
Probably not,
okay.
but they'll make the playoffs.
Oh, well, that's good. That's respectable. I only asked that.
Well, yeah.
Because as I told you, I lived just a very short distance away from the stadium back when I lived in Tampa. And that's the only time I ever watched a football game, because after being 0 for 2 decades, they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I thought, and this team is like 2 blocks away from where I live. I should watch this.
Yeah. The Tampa football team and the Tampa baseball team now have one thing in common.
Yeah.
They play in places that have no roof.
Yeah. Well, and normally you don't need it until a hurricane arrives. Yeah. But, I mean, for those who don't know, the baseball team used to have a roof, but then the hurricane happened.
Yeah.
So.
And Tampa may not have a basebal team at the end of this thing anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
Where are they going?
Somewhere where there's a stadium.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take over. We'll roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. A little bit more on Hunter Biden being pardoned by his lying father, but just to start. And then one of the dumbest college courses you ever heard of. That and a whole lot more is coming your way in the 8 o'clock hour. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Six of time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is Monday, so rinse and repeat.
Today's show is sponsored by Do-It-Yourself Pet Taxidermy Kit. You'll never have to say goodbye to Mr. Sprinkles again.
Yeah, if you're okay with doing that to your own pet, some are.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
All right, got to get into the Hunter Biden thing one more time. I've been touching on this all morning long, but of course, this is going to be a main topic for several days. Let's go ahead and hit the highlights of it first. when President Biden lied, which was more than once.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter.
Don't know why.
He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. And I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Okay. You heard that, right? Okay. And I will not pardon. Okay. Now, of course, he's going to have to make all sorts of excuses, and I can't wait to hear what his White House press secretary Mop Top is going to do with this one. Because let's back up. First off, MSNBC interview with the president where he repeats what he just said, but also what the White House spokeswoman has to say.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Okay. Now, here is one lady. This is what people are saying on X, formerly Twitter, which, by the way, everybody has to do that. X, formerly Twitter. I'm thinking Elon Musk should just go back to Twitter. I like Elon, really, but enough. Nobody's doing this. Okay. So one lady named Kate says, now that Hunter is pardoned, maybe the media can honestly report on all of his crimes. Okay. And then here's Harry Session, who works with the White House, says, hey, Donald, speaking to Donald Trump, nobody is above the law in the United States. Then, after the pardon, says, President Biden has officially pardoned his son, Hunter Biden. His full statement is below. I fully agree with this decision. Hypocrisy. Okay. Some of these are just absolutely priceless. It is telling, says Scott, how many people were willing to debase themselves, pushing the obvious falsehood that Biden wouldn't pardon his son. And these are the people who want to be trusted as the gatekeepers of our democracy. Fortunately, the public sees through the BS. Comfortably Smug is the name of this guy, as he posts online. He can pardon Hunter, but he still won't acknowledge his granddaughter. Don't let the act fool you. This isn't about family. It's about protecting the crime family. Good. I mean, these just go on. But you get the general idea. So what I was saying earlier this morning when I started the program is we all knew that this was going to be a lie. But to me, it's not so much about Hunter. And they keep saying that, well, the crimes were tax evasion and guns. Yeah, but what about all the other garbage that the Bidens have been into for decades now? And this includes the bribery, the money under the table, the collusion with China, Ukraine, Russia, et cetera, et cetera. On it goes. This has been going on for all of Joe Biden's political career. He's always been corrupt. He's always been a liar. And he exits being exactly the same thing. To me, this is why we have limited government, or used to, in this country, have limited government. And limited government protects us from stuff like this. If you really want to fix it, because oftentimes, look, the pundits will be going on about this for days. MSNBC will be, and CNN will try to, and New York Times will try to protect. But honestly, if you want to fix this, and so many other things that your government is and should be found guilty of, and I mean members of government from, of course, there's the Clintons, and you thought Obama had, and it's true, Obama had one of the most scandal-ridden administrations in the history of presidencies. And I really do love that, which was the media outlet? Was it CNN? That tried at the end of 8 years of Obama to actually say, gosh, 8 years of a scandal-free presidency. I mean, it was one of the most scandal-ridden presidencies ever. This is how they try to protect each other. Between the media, what used to be news media, not anymore. Between the politicians, this is very incestuous, isn't it? And, of course, the bureaucracy, all working together. The way that we end all of this is what I hope we'll see the Trump administration do in the first 4 years, and hopefully it continues for 8 years after that. with whoever becomes president after that, as we continue to reduce the size of government, because that's what we really need to do. Greatly reduce the size and power of government. Between the elected officials and the bureaucrats, they have less and less money, less and less power. We're already seeing this. What used to be news media, they have less and less power and are making less and less money. And so they're having a problem as legacy media goes away. And in its place comes more of a grassroots media, which will become one day as big. Like imagine MSNBC goes away, yay, and they go away. But what takes its place? Hopefully those people who are in the grassroots media work their way up. And at first they'll be fine, but over the years that'll fall into corruption too. But it needs to be weeded out every so often. It needs to be. So again, between the bureaucracy, dear God, I hope Elon Musk is able to do what he says he's going to do by closing down most of the bureaucracy, because talk about power-hungry, corrupt, et cetera, et cetera. The way to solve this is do what the Founding Fathers originally intended for this country. Small, limited government with not a whole lot of power. But instead, the power is with the people. In other words, you individually. Okay? You individually, not somebody ruling over you, which is what people get into politics for. We've known this throughout human history. People get into politics because they're power-hungry and money-hungry. That's why they do it. So hopefully this is a step toward a reset, if you will, to get us. And this last thing with Hunter Biden, although I don't think it's the last thing before Biden leaves office, is just more proof of why we need it. A reset to get us back to where we belong as a republic, which is limited government. I do have a story coming up here. This is the dumbest course probably I've ever seen offered at a university. Up next.
Do you suffer from feelings of entitlement, self-righteousness, and arrogance? Fits of resentment, anger, and hypocrisy? Terror that the world is going to end? Or even worse, that the world isn't going to end and that things are going to get better? A deep need to point fingers, deflect, or deny? Uncontrollable stress, frustration, or depression? Fear of recession? Fear of no recession? Then you may have PTDS, or President Trump Derangement Syndrome. Fortunately, there's new Magatol, the proven cure for PTDS. Just one Magatol a day realigns your sensibilities by bypassing erratic brain signals to amplify the logic receptors. Talk to your Obamacare doctor today to see if Magatol is right for you. Recommended dose of reality is at least once daily. Warning snowflakes. Side effects may include optimism, hope for the future, good feelings about your country, accepting economic prosperity, renewed faith in capitalism, and admitting that things aren't so bad under Trump. If you discover you're allergic to common sense, stop use immediately and contact your doctor. Relax. Breathe. It's Magatol from the makers of Triggerol.
Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy to be here.
So Tim, who's there in Casper, sends me this note. Did you see the clip where Rachel Maddow was in tears when she heard Elon Musk was considering buying MSNBC? I missed that. I'm going to have to go look that up. That would be absolutely worth watching. I'd do that. Okay. Let's go to, I was watching something this weekend that had to do with the universities, and there are some people who are really concerned that some local colleges and even major universities are having trouble, and they worry about an education desert. That's what they call it, an education desert. And that would be places like Wyoming, Nebraska, other like the states like that, the Dakotas, to name a few. Well, there's not a lot out there for education. And what are people going to do? Well, now, if you actually offered courses that people need, it wouldn't be a problem. People would go to your college. They would go to your university if you were actually offering something they need, but you haven't been doing that. The number of people over decades that have gone to get a college degree, and it turns out it was a college degree in nothing that anybody needs. And so now they're heavily in debt. You know the drill. They're heavily in debt, and they can't get a job to pay down that debt because their degree is useless. Well, those people got old enough, became parents, and told their kids, don't do that. Get a degree in something that actually matters so you can get a decent job and support yourself. Some people have to learn it the hard way, right? Get a load of this one. University of Utah offers feminist cannabis studies this fall. Now, I know you just looked at the radio or your smartphone there, and I'm sorry, what? I'll read that again, but then I'll read the story. Because I know you're kind of blinking and, sticking a finger in your ear and wiggling. Did I just hear? University of Utah offers a feminist cannabis studies course this semester. They're currently offering that course. It's through a gender studies program. So, wait, it's a feminist cannabis studies through gender studies program. The upper division course, sure, it's upper division, explores feminist cannabis studies as a field of subject of study that asks people to evaluate their understanding and assumption around cannabis, according to the course description. I guarantee you the professor is just using this as an excuse to get legal pot. Quote, through interdisciplinary and, we have to use the buzzwords to do this. It says, through interdisciplinary and intersectional feminist framework, we examine historical and contemporary disclosures of cannabis across the U.S. and beyond. It says feminist cannabis studies also covers queer trans activism, radicalized histories. It poses the question, what does it tell us about the ways gender, race, sexuality, immigration, and class have shaped our understanding of cannabis? The course additionally asks, how has the image of cannabis functioned to maintain inequality based on such societal construction categories? And how have communities of color and LGBTQ and marginalized groups used and imagined cannabis as a use in cultural, medicinal, and spiritual practices over time? It's no wonder to me that Kamala Harris spoke this way, in word salads, because these are the people she's trying to connect with, other people who speak in word salads. The course teaches about the contributions of queer and trans communities to the cannabis movement, the global implications of war on drugs incited by the U.S., and the possibilities imaginable for and after federal cannabis legalization. Federal cannabis studies is taught by Dr. Magali Ordonez or something like that, who did not respond to any requests to answer questions about this. He says his Latinx sexual... You wonder, what does he have a degree in? Okay, I'm going to try to do this, but I doubt I can do it with a straight face. This guy's degree is Latinx Sexualities Postdoctoral Fellow at the University of Utah, according to the school bio. Okay, so this is in his description. Who is he? Look him up at the University of Utah. Underneath, Latinx Sexualities Protocol Fellow. That's a thing that someone gets paid for, apparently at universities. Which is one of the reasons I've said if you're ready to go to university, or you're about to pay for your kid to go to university, and you see garbage like this, don't send them there. or you see a DEI program, an Office of Diversity and Inclusion, don't send them there. Because you're not teaching your kids anything that they're going to need for the rest of their lives. All right, so the dissertation also observes Los Angeles to understand how queer and color cannabis histories, relations, and spaces refuse subversion to a capitalist cannabis industry by entering care, cannabis education, and public advocacy. Did any of that make sense to you? No, but they had to bash capitalism. I saw that much anyway. So this professor wrote a piece earlier this year outlining the exploitation of immigrant women in California's cannabis farming, saying that women in the industry are often shunted in the role of trimming the cannabis flower, bud, and leaves. Feminist Cannabis Studies is offered by Utah's Gender Studies program. Now, again, if you ever go, you're going to go or you're going to send your kid to a university, and they have a Gender Studies program. Don't go there. It's part of their School for Cultural and Social Transformation, known as Transformation because it's a lengthy name. Transform 4 economic fields: ethics studies, gender studies, disability studies, Pacific Island studies. The degree program explores race and racism, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, sexual identities, disabilities, health, global dysphorias, etc., 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 on it goes. And if you were to go through all of the work to get a degree in all of that, then you went out into the real world with that degree, the only place where you can get a job is at a university that studies the same thing, because that degree doesn't mean anything anywhere else in the world. Not in the real world, anyway. All right, coming up on 8:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. Wake Up Wyoming.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
8:36 at the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So since I was picking on some universities, in this case, University of Utah, which has just the dumbest course selection ever in cannabis, gender, feminist studies. I don't know. But okay. Meantime, University of Wyoming is eyeing some non-traditional students to reverse their declining enrollment. Now, I think part of the reason, this is just me thinking out loud here, for declining enrollment at a lot of universities is just people looking for degrees that actually do something, and not spending a lot of money on a degree that doesn't do anything. In fact, I remember my oldest niece was getting married, and she had, of course, the maids of honor. And so all the bridesmaids, whatever you call them, they were in the living room talking about getting out of college. And they were all graduating about the same time. And my brother-in-law asked them, so what do you have degrees in? And they had all sorts of degrees in things that really, like one of them had like a literature degree. Well, unless you're going to go to a school and teach literature, there's nothing you can do with that. They all had degrees in things that wouldn't get them a real job. And he actually raised his voice a little bit. What are you going to do with that? Well, none of them have actually done anything with their degrees. And they're not doing all that well. My niece, however, decided, like her mom, to be an accountant. And they're both my sister. Don't tell my sister I said something nice about her, by the way, is a very good accountant, and so is my niece. And my niece is actually building a good career out of this. But she went off and got a degree in something that actually mattered for work. So, yeah, there's a lot of declining enrollment at colleges, universities, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Let those colleges and universities learn the lesson and start trying to teach things that actually matter. Now, let's go back to UW. We have to be careful because this story is from Wyoming public media, and all public media stories are problematic. But okay, UW is down 100 students this semester compared to last fall. That's despite an expensive recoupment campaign last year. They got more young people to apply. Now recruiters are looking at how to get prospective students through what they call the funnel. From applying to being admitted to actually enrolling. UW's enrollment chief told the University Board of Trustees on Thursday they'd look at other schools with more successful funnels as a model. We very much support the idea set of not trying to reinvent the wheel, but look at where the wheel is really working well and then copying it, essentially is what he said. So for UW, this could mean getting prospective students more information sooner and using faculty and direct recruitment efforts. Recruitment hope to offset failing or steady on-campus enrollment with expanding online offerings. So in other words, in that case, more schools and classes where you don't actually have to show up at UW in order to take the class, which I'm in favor of that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Because so much of what you can learn today can be done online. You don't necessarily have to go and sit in a classroom to learn many things. Depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, something like that, then absolutely. You should have to go sit in the classroom to do certain things. And especially if it's hands-on experience. If you're going to be some kind of a chemist, an engineer, you probably need to sit in a classroom to learn some of things like this. But there's other lines of work where, you can just as easily learn at home, online, which would be just fine. The University of Wyoming is looking at that. There's a lot of you've seen the commercials for a lot of online universities, and they can actually be really good. There's many things that you can get a useful degree in, and you can learn at home on your own time, which I think is probably a more affordable and sensible way to go. So the story says, for example, even as university has raised tuition costs for out-of-state students, those enrollments stayed relatively stable, except for out-of-state students from northern Colorado, a demographic that's decreasing. Here's a quote. What they say is, we would love to come to UW, but that out-of-state tuition is a challenge for us, said Moore. Recruiters will return to the trustees in a future meeting with a plan to target northern Colorado students with financial incentives. The trustees will have to approve any such tuition reduction before it can be implemented. Now, this is where I'll admit I do not know the University of Wyoming total what their budget is, but one of my thoughts is if we were to take a look at UW's budget and start finding things that we could cut, like, for example, I am so glad they cut the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And that's great. And don't rename it. Keep cutting that garbage out. But what else can UW cut? Different departments, different people that they don't need. A lot of businesses do this all the time. Throughout my life, I've worked at places where the company was doing fine financially. Everything was just fine. But they started cutting employees because they realized they were just a little heavy with employees and they could make much more profit with less people doing the same work. A lot of companies do this. But oftentimes companies take a look at it, but what don't we need? In other words, if we got rid of that department, got rid of that person, would it really matter? And in many cases, you could, and it wouldn't matter at all. You've heard me say, God knows how many times, government needs to do this. I wonder, just thinking out loud here, if UW can do this, besides getting rid of their Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which, by the way, a lot of those people who worked in that office did not leave the university. They just went to work at a different part of the university. It's not like a whole staff was just fired, let go. We don't have to pay those salaries anymore. Many of those people just went to work at a different section of the university. So what if instead we just got rid of them altogether and really cut down on the cost of the university? Could we then pass that savings on to students? Could we also streamline the courses? So let's say someone shows up at UW, and here's how I would do it. I would only offer courses that led someone down a pathway to a specific career. Not just random garbage. I'm actually going to offer courses that lead people down a pathway to a specific career. And that's what I think UW should do. And then they only have to take the courses that get them to that career, instead of taking all sorts of other electives and things that raise the price of tuition. See what I'm doing there? I'm not just streamlining how UW runs so the college runs on less money. But let's make sure if somebody shows up and I want to do this as a profession, and they choose a profession, UW will work with them to get to that goal as quickly and as affordably as possible. They do that, and they could improve the reputation of UW, and more people would want to show up and to that school, applying for their courses, taking the courses, attending the school, graduating with a degree that didn't cost too much, not an arm and a leg anyway, and actually led them down a good career path. There's a lot that can be streamlined here if UW thinks in that way, which is more of a business model than a university model, more of a business model than a government model, if you will. 8:45, Wake Up.
Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino's waiting by. So, Frank, an exciting weekend in sports. Apparently, huge fight broke out after the Ohio State versus Michigan.
Yeah, they wanted to, this is what teams do nowadays in these rivalry games, is that, if you win on the road, like, Michigan did, you want to take your team's flag and smash it into the ground right on their logo right at midfield, and everyone has one. Well, that didn't go over very well with the Ohio State people who lost at home to Michigan. So all these people are, they're fighting them over flags, and they're pushing and shoving, and they made people suspended. And then the Ohio State campus police had to use pepper spray, really, to separate this? You couldn't figure out a better way? Really?
Okay.
Really? So that being said, here's Texas and Texas A&M. Big rivalry game. The Texas coach, Sarkisian, flat out told his players, stay off their logo. Stay off it. There's a better way to do this and celebrate a rivalry win. Stay off it.
Okay.
And they do it, that's gone on and on and on, and really there's a better way, and that's got to stop, because everyone watched and you didn't really see it on TV. It was mostly videos of people who were, on the field.
Yeah.
Say, hey, enough, okay? Shake hands, go to your locker room, go cheer with your fans, and then get the hell out of there.
So you mean like good sportsmanship and stuff?
Evidently.
Yeah, okay.
It seems to escape some people sometimes.
Okay. So were there fist fights on the field?
Yeah, there's pushing and shoving. I mean, all these guys out there. I mean, darn near the whole, a lot of the Michigan guys, a lot of Ohio State guys, and everyone's trying to break people up, and and people are grabbing the flag, and Michigan's got their flag out there. The Ohio State players are trying to grab the flag. I'm like, it all could be avoided if you just go celebrate with your own fans.
Here's what this reminds me of. This was years ago. They made some idiotic rule that after you scored a touchdown, no celebrating. I thought, no, you got to have some celebrating.
And that's fine as long as it's within reason.
You want to go ahead and spike the ball and do that little touchdown jig that you do.
Yeah, and
go for it. That's okay. But don't be a jerk about it, is basically what we're saying.
Right. In the NFL, they had they got to get away from that no fun league. Let them dance around. In college, they don't let them do that.
Okay.
But you cannot, it's to the point that, in rivalry games where there's a lot of hatred, mutual hatred, don't try to just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, again, have a good time, but don't be a jerk about it.
Pretty much. All right, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys ended the regular season with a win. How about that? They beat Washington State on the road 15-14 and ended the game with a 14-play, 90-yard drive for a touchdown as Evan Swoboda found John Michael Gillenborg for a TD from 18 yards out on fourth down. Swoboda, who was filling in for the injured Caden Anderson, and he was and Swoboda was the original starter, was 21 of 34 for 206 yards and sacked 6 times, but threw 1 interception. However, John Hoyland, their place kicker, kicked 3 field goals. He had a much better season in 2024 as opposed to 2023, and the Cowboy defense really did a nice job. This is actually 2 weeks in a row they've played really, really well. They allowed the Cougars just 182 yards of passing and 103 yards rushing. The Cowboys did finish the year on the right note. They did not mail the game in. They played hard, and they played with pride, and they came away with a win. And that takes a little bit of the sting out of a very bad season for the Cowboys. They were 3-9, and that's their worst season since 2015. Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls over Virginia in the last game of that Puerto Rico tournament last week, 71-66. Aline Peterson with 23, Allison Fertig with 22. That's a really good win for the Cowgirls. They beat Drake in that first game of that tournament, and Drake's a good team, and then lost to Norfolk State, but came back to beat Virginia. So that's well played over there. The next game for the Cowgirls will be Missouri State on Friday. Wyoming Cowboys lost to Loyola Marymount in the second game of that Cancun, Mexico tournament last week, 73-70. It was really a strange game. Cowboys were down 16 points, and they led by 10. And then they kind of ran out of gas at the end. Obi Eggman had 23 points to lead the way for UW. They will start Mountain West Conference play on Wednesday at Utah State in Logan. And that's it in sports.
Okay. Well, we're getting into that season where we're going to start wrapping things up, right?
Yeah. As long as we can just have people just stay off people's logos.
Okay.
It only antagonizes people.
It really does.
They're already mad for losing the game, and the other team's happy. When Michigan beats Ohio State, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. But you know what? You can't inflame emotions already when they're already inflamed to begin with.
Whatever happened to walking out there and shaking hands and going, "Hey, good game"?
They do, except in rivalry games.
So they should do it there too.
But they should. But if there's mutual hatred there.
Okay, well there shouldn't be. It's a sport.
Right. No. It's 2 groups with the same goals.
Yes, that's fine.
With long history of competition and mutual distrust and hatred.
You don't have to hate each other.
Oh, they do.
Okay. Yeah. This is why I don't understand sports, Frank.
They hate.
Okay, they hate. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some... Calm down, everybody. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into News Time National local update on the weather forecast. You and I go rolling back into it again. 3 men died after Google Map leads them across a collapsed bridge, among other stories. Next hour, it's Wake Up Wyoming. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday, so rinse and repeat.
Today's show is sponsored by Do-It-Yourself Pet Taxidermy Kit. You'll never have to say goodbye to Mr. Sprinkles again.
If you don't mind taxidermying your own pet, you'll have to gut him first.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
I've done a lot about the Hunter Biden thing today, and you're going to be hearing about that all week. So I'm going to move off on that story for just a minute. It's something completely different here. This is a Cowboy State Daily article, which I'm sure a lot of you have thought about this. You go someplace to buy something, right? You're getting lunch somewhere, let's say. But this is a walk-up counter, and they take your order, they get your food. But there's an option there for tipping. Now, the article says tipping in Wyoming, even some bartenders are saying it's out of control. Story says, blame it on technology, blame it on pandemic, blame it on growing sense of entitlement. However, it's justified. A lot of people are pushing back against the out-of-control tipping culture to the point that some are boycotting leaving tips altogether. Even bartenders in Wyoming who, like restaurant servers, are paid sub-minimum wage because tips are a significant part of their income, are saying that tipping has gotten way out of hand. Quote, just because you're signing something, there are some credit card companies where they have a tip that's just in case you want to do it. Three Sisters Truck Stop, bartender and waitress, Avi Emerson. That's in Manville, which, by the way, I have not been in that place, but I've been I've been in their parking lot. It's a neat little place. And I feel like, on the outside anyway, I didn't go in. I feel like if you're at a place, she says, where you're not being served and waited on, you really shouldn't have to tip. Okay. Sometimes I do, just because the people behind the counter are really working hard. And when I was much younger, I worked there, but I didn't do much. I didn't do much. I did a lot. I didn't make much. But I was young, I was just starting out, and I didn't make tips. So I knew that the wage was going to be low. I just did. And so people who work behind a counter like that, I understand how hard it is to make any kind of a living in those conditions, which I always say, give yourself a raise. If you're not making enough money, what do you have to do to get out of your situation to make more money? Don't blame it on the system. Don't blame it on other people. That's on you. But sometimes I do see people behind the counter doing all they can, really working hard. And so I see that tip button, and I give them a little something. But here's where I always wondered. This is where I want to research it a little bit more. If I hit the tip button at, let's say, a fast food joint, for example, coffee shop, for example, and I hit that button for a tip, how do they get paid? Now, that's supposed to go to them. Is it just put into their paycheck? How do they get paid on that? I want to know that. If I do that, if I hit that button, I want to make sure it goes to them. And it may not even be that person specifically. Maybe it gets split among the whole crew. I don't know. I would like to know how this works out. So, this bartender says, if you're going through a drive-through coffee place, I mean, it's more than welcome to tip if you want. That's awesome. Do it, she said. But they also make above minimum wage. In Wyoming, if you're a waitress, the minimum wage for a waitstaff is like $5.25 because they factor in tips. And this young lady in Manville is not alone in her thoughts, says the story. Kat Deeds, who manages Mint Bar in Sheridan, has similar perception that tipping has just gone way off the deep end. She doesn't rely on tips anymore, but she remembers when her bottom line depended on getting tipped. She said, I know it's very important to my employees now, she said, but I do kind of feel like it's getting a little wild. It's not just people who used to be, normally leaving tips, bartenders, waitresses, stuff like that. If you're going to all sorts of other places, they're wanting tips too. The whole trend is partly due to technology, she acknowledged, where tipping is a default mechanism like iPad screens, and two, during the pandemic, people who wanted ways to support their favorite businesses, the tipping screen was helpful to facilitate that. But, Deed said, she faces a tip screen numerous times now, some pretty unexpected times, and at some self-checkouts where she's the one doing all the work. She said, I'm like, but there's nobody helping me, so why do I feel like, I agree. There's nobody helping you, then why are you tipping? Nationwide, story says, Americans are largely fed up with tipping according to the numbers. Pew Research Center, in a survey conducted last year, said 72% of U.S. adults feel that tipping is expected in a lot more places today than 5 years ago. but far fewer said they felt confident when 34% and or even a 33% tip. How much is a good tip, by the way? When I said I have left tips at a fast food place, I wasn't leaving the maximum amount. I was leaving the least amount. Because, again, it's a fast food place, and fast food workers get paid not sub-minimum wage like a waitress, but a bit above that. The story says there's also little or no consensus about whether tipping is an obligation or a choice. A majority, 49%, said depends on the situation. I'm in that one. 21% it's a choice, and 29% believe it's an obligation. I don't believe it's an obligation in most cases. I do believe if I'm sitting down in a restaurant and I'm being served, it's an obligation. So, let's see, most people agree with tipping in restaurants. 92% say they always leave a tip. Other services where it includes haircuts. So I do tip a little bit. I go to a barber and I round off how much his haircut is not exactly an even number, and he likes getting paid in cash. So I round it up. But he also does a good job. Food deliveries, buying drinks at a bar, taxis and ride shares. Far fewer people buying coffee, just 25%. When eating at it. And there's another thing. When you're just you're just buying a cup of coffee. And the girl behind the counter pours you a cup of coffee. That's all she did. Do you tip her for that? It's a pretty easy job. She just poured you a cup of coffee. Some places I buy the cup of coffee, they hand the cup to me. And then I go over and pour it myself because it's a self-serve thing. I don't tip that. Okay, so there's also no definitive argument on how much a tip should be. 57% say, some people say, about 57% of people say tip 15%. A quarter say 20% or more. A majority agree if it's good quality service, they tip a lot more than that. And now there you go. To me, if I'm at a sit-down restaurant and the waitress is absolutely outstanding, and I've done this too, I see the waitress is just having a bad night. She's okay. She's a good person. But sometimes we have a bad day at work. But usually it's just because the waitress is good. I give them a little extra. If the waitress is not so good, they don't get that much. So hopefully they'll get the hint. Chet Yoder says, that's why I give the tip my server only. Okay. So are you just talking sit-down restaurant, your server only? Not at a fast food place, in other words. Okay. Blue Eyes in Douglas. It actually has the person's name that's running the register on it, so it does go to them. Well, maybe not. I understand what Blue Eyes in Douglas is saying. You give me an example, Blue Eyes. I go to a Subway, and as I start down the line, the first person says, "So what can I get started for you?" That's the thing they say these days. What can I get started for you? And I say, okay, I would like this, and my orders are never they're never complicated at all. Give me a wrap. I'd like some tuna on there. And then it's handed off to the next person. And I say, this is the person who puts the other stuff besides the tuna in the wrap. Okay, give me some, I like spinach instead of lettuce, and tomato and onion. And there you go, that's it. So that's the second person, right, down the line. Then when I get to the end, there's the person at the register ringing everybody up. So that's three people. And then it asks me, do I want to leave a tip? Now, my question is, does that tip go to all three of those people? That's what I want to know. There's another place I like going to, which is a deli place. They have homemade breads. It's really good. And if I walk in there, they know me. Because, again, I'll probably get the tuna sandwich. But I just said tuna on wheat, and I grab a bottle of water. And so the girl at the register rings it up, but then she hands that order off to people around the corner who are making the food. So if I hit the tip button, does that tip go to all the people there, the person at the register, plus the people back in around the corner who are making my sandwich? I really like to know who actually that goes to. But to me, I'm with... And I think that was a good article. I'm with those who say, even in the business, this has gotten a little out of hand. tipping for every little thing. I don't mind helping people out who are trying to get a start because I've been there, done that. I remember those days really well. So sometimes I go ahead and leave it just because I see, boy, these people are really working hard back there. Here's a little something extra. But now I wonder, does it get to them?
911, what's your emergency?
I'm looking at a UFO in the woods.
All right. Where are you?
I'm behind the lumberyard on 26. There's this huge orb of purple light.
Okay, stay where you are. We're going to send someone to check it out.
What if I am to be our planet's ambassador?
Just stay put.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Okay, I'm gonna put you on speaker.
What are you doing?
Stripping down.
No, sir. Please put your clothes back on and wait for the patrol car.
This is my moment. I'm getting in that thing. You just keep recording this for science.
Sir.
Welcome, overlords! I am Steven! Oh, no.
What's the matter?
I've intruded on a fancy party.
Mm-hmm. And what about the orb?
It's a disco ball.
And you're naked?
Yep. Hey, the mayor's here. Looking good, man.
Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
Wake Up Wyoming. So, okay, this is a good one here. That's someone I know down in Cheyenne, Wyoming, who owns a restaurant. I won't say who. I could, but I won't. I was just talking about tipping and how a lot of people who work in Wyoming, even bartenders, are saying this is getting out of control. Which in some cases I agree. I don't mind tipping some people, or even if they're getting minimum wage, giving them a little bit extra if they're doing a good job. But, you know, it's a lot like if you're, let's say you're moving, and the people who are the movers helping you move, do you tip them a little bit extra? Most people do. Do you have to? No, they make enough money. But most people tip them a little bit extra. Anyway, it's just considered a courteous thing to do. So this restaurant owner down in Cheyenne says tipping is out of control. Bakeries, gift shops. Even yesterday, we went to an art store in Fort Collins, and it was on the screen. So we tipped for a woman ringing us up because in Colorado, they don't even bag anything. Tips get shared by hours. So this is where I wonder when I hit the tip button. Again, let's say I'm at a Subway, and there's several employees behind the counter, and I hit to tip, which I'm okay with doing, but how does that get to them? So tipping by hours. So 3 employees get 100% or get 100. Yeah, okay, they get it all. If one was there all day, 7 hours, one at 5 hours, one at 2 hours. That's 13 billable hours. The 100 is divided by 13, 7.69, and given out by hours worked to employees. Okay, that's how they do that. Okay. As long as, this is my main concern. As long as it is actually making it to them. See, because I always liked when I leave, like, for example, I sit down to eat at a restaurant, and there's a waitress serving me. When I'm done, I leave cash on the table because I know that the waitress is going to go over and pick up that cash. It's hers. Or if I do leave the tip on the ticket, you know, so there's my bill, and they have a little line there for tips, and I write that in. I've seen it, been there, done that. Many years ago when I was very young, I tried waiting tables. I sucked at it. I realized that I sucked at it, and so I never did it again. But I did see that when people wrote a tip in on their credit card, that at the end of the night, the manager would walk over and say, and here's your tips from the credit card, and hand me some cash. They would cash me out at the end of the night. That's how we did it back then, anyway. Now, whether that makes it on paychecks today or not, I don't know, because so many systems have changed. But I do agree, though. There are some places I walk up to, and that's the option on the screen. So I guess what we're saying here, you can realize is, just because it's an option on a screen, you don't need to feel obligated to do that. I think the point that everybody in these industries is making is the option is on the screen, not because of the company, but because that you're doing business with, but because of the credit card company. In most cases, the option's on the screen because of the credit card company providing the option. You don't need to feel obligated to leave a tip just because it's sitting there on the screen like that. And for me, again, it goes to, I don't mind, like when I'm at that Subway restaurant and I see them working really hard, I don't mind going, something, here's a couple of extra bucks. Look at them. I've been there, done that. Look at them go. Yes, I'll leave them a little something. Okay. So, let me see. Simple Man is sending me. Also, Mike in Leeds, South Dakota is sending me notes. All right. I'll get to your notes as we're heading into news and information break. When we get out of that, if you think that commercial by Jaguar was really bad, that just is sinking the brand of what was once a great car, not to be outdone, wait to hear what Ferrari did. But we'll do that coming up in a few minutes from now. 9:29, Wake Up Wyoming.
Covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
Let's talk about how tipping has gotten out of control. Blue Eyes says, you have to remember the IRS rule on a tipping business. Also, I believe 8% of the revenue needs to be tips or the business needs to make up the difference. That is why some make employees put all of the tips in a pot, which is not fair at all. Yeah. Tipping has gotten convoluted in a lot of ways over the years, and I never did I remember I was at one place when I was young where the boss said, we're going to put it all in one pot and we'll split it at the end of the night, and it was a revolt. So he said, never mind, because there was flat out a result. A huge revolt, especially among the servers. All right, so remember a little while ago, just so it was last week, a week before, Jaguar, as we say in the United States, put out an ad for their car, which made no sense whatsoever. None. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was this really artsy, woke kind of, and it had nothing to do with cars whatsoever. And then when asked why, of course, well, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and yada, yada. And also, the Jaguar brand, the CEO wants to take the company all electric, which is definitely away from what the trend has always been. There was an initial bump in electric cars when they first came out because, some people did want them and they were curious. Over half of electric car buyers say they would never buy one again. And as I've told you many times before, many companies are either scaling way back on electric or dumping it all together. Not to be outdone. Now, Ferrari. Oh, God, here we go. So Ferrari has a picture of a bunch of different employees standing out in front of some, industrial-looking site. And it says, and this I still love the way we do this, Ferrari. It's Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. We can never just say X. Nobody can, but all right. Ferrari says, we proudly refrain, and I'm sorry, I must be getting tired here. I'm going to do this again. We proudly reaffirm, that's better, our commitment to equity, equality, and inclusion by endorsing the new diversity and inclusion charter at F1 and at FIA. I don't know what that is. Though through encouraging education, breaking biases, and ensuring transparency, we're creating a more inclusive industry. Okay. The funny thing about that is nobody really cares about whether they're creating an inclusive industry and woke DEI and so on and so on. You're Ferrari. Put out a great car. Just put out a great car. Right? When you hire an employee, hire them because they're good at what they do. And no other reason. Just when you find someone who's good at what they do and you need to fill that position, do it. That's what you do. That's all and then put out a great car. So some of the responses that they've got on social media, and I love this one. Congratulations, you've just Jaguared yourselves. Good job, morons. I'm hoping that sticks. When some company does something like that, you've just Jaguared yourselves. Another guy says, as a Ford guy, this makes me happy. Let me see here. I say, goodness, if you wanted to virtue signal, you could at least be funny about it. Okay. Let's see, another one. You limit who you sell cars to, says a guy named Steve. Let's see, another one, R.I.P. Ferrari. So only woke weirdos are allowed to buy your product? Okay. Another guy says, what product do you manufacture again? They're Ferraris, as you would think. Another guy says, bring your company to the ground is the all-new rage, evidently. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. This is a great brand. Ferrari has always been a great brand. One of the greatest when it comes to. And yeah, I know that Jaguar has its ups and downs over the years, but overall they've really been a great car, overall, over time. But what they're doing is taking the eye off the ball of what they do. They make cars. Just make great cars. And that's all you got to do. Just make great cars. You heard me say this when it came to Bud Light. Just make great beer. That's all. Great beer at an affordable price. And when you run your commercials, you show a bunch of people having a good time, then the beer arrives, now they're having a great time. So when you go to make a car, whether it's a high-end sports car or a high-end luxury car or whatever it is you're making, just make great cars. Because as soon as you get into, we're going to virtue signal, DEI, as well as all electric vehicles, they're determined to destroy the companies because that's not what people want. If you're wondering, do I know what people want? Yes. They want a good car. And they don't want to be preached at through virtue signaling. It's just that simple. Now, some of these CEOs don't know this. And I guess there's no explaining it to them. That's okay. They have their golden parachutes. When the company falls apart, they will sail gently to the ground on their golden parachute. They'll be fine. Everybody else who works for the company will be unemployed. And a great legendary brand name is done. Coming up on 9:43, Wake Up Wyoming.
The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's cold down here. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays on AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
Frank Campino's waiting by. Frank, I'm going to have to switch topics on you because the one that I had chosen for this segment is lame.
Oh, well,
it's no.
And this is different from any other subject?
Yes, definitely. See, it said 3 reasons why kids stick toys up their nose. And I'm thinking, hey, that's really good.
I didn't even know there were 3 reasons.
Yeah, well, that's okay. But then
one is like you're a kid and you don't know any better.
See, now that would have been a good reason. No, kids are curious. Oh, God. Kids are great mimics. Kids don't yet understand. That's what you got for me? Okay, so we're just throwing that one away.
Okay, thank God for that.
I got a better one.
Okay.
Scientists create a spaghetti so small it cannot be seen with the naked eye. Yeah, imagine.
That's low-cal, isn't it?
If you will. Oh, yeah. A strand of spaghetti 200 times thinner than a human hair. This tiny piece of pasta is so small, roughly 372 nanometers. It's actually smaller than some wavelengths of light and certainly way smaller than anything you can see with the naked eye. So what's the purpose here?
But Glenn, why, Glenn? Why?
I don't know. Okay, we are giving scientists a lot of money to do really cool things.
Like figure out how thin they can make a spaghetti.
Strands of spaghetti, yeah. What I want to know is how much were they paid for this. Unfortunately, the tiny pasta is pretty worthless, it says, in the culinary world, according to a professor. We needed a professor to tell us that.
Of course.
Frank.
Yes.
Yeah, because you and I wouldn't have figured that out.
No. We're not that smart, no.
I don't think it's useful as pasta. Sadly, as it would overcook easily in the pan.
Right.
Yeah. I bet you didn't think about the overcooking part, did you, Frank?
No, I didn't actually, but I'll have to re-examine
Yes.
this entire scenario to come to a conclusion that satisfies my
Then how much
lame
water
brain.
do you put into that?
Well,
I mean, when you go to make spaghetti at home, you know how much water to add to your spaghetti.
You'll need an eyedropper.
You would for something like this.
Yeah.
However, though, you like you said, it's like a diet. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of weight with spaghetti that thin. Although I wonder what happens when you put the sauce on it, too.
There's no spaghetti.
The cheese is bigger than the spaghetti.
Yeah.
The flake, when you put grated cheese on it, the grated cheese is bigger than the spaghetti.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
No, you don't think so?
No.
Maybe I'm with you on that one because when I go to grab the cheese, when I go to shake it out there, half of that bottle is coming out.
Yeah. When you go to a restaurant and they go, say when,
yes,
and you don't.
That's right, yeah. The guy's holding the big block of cheese. I still see cheese in your hand.
All right, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys did end a brutal season with a victory, and that's always good news. They defeated Washington State on the road 15-14. A 14-play, 90-yard drive gave this Cowboy team a victory late in the contest. Evan Swoboda to John Michael Gillenborg for 18 yards and a touchdown on fourth down, no less. So they made plays at the end on offense, and with timely plays, and we haven't seen too much of that this year. Swoboda, for his end of the deal, was 21 of 34 for 206 yards. He was sacked 6 times and threw 1 interception. John Hoyland kicked 3 field goals for the Pokes, and, he had a pretty good season compared to a year ago. And the Cowboy defense held Washington State to 182 yards passing and 103 yards rushing. So the Cowboys finished the year at 3-9, but you know what? They didn't lay down. They did mail it in. They played hard. They played for pride, and they have something to smile about this week. But at 3-9, that was their worst season since 2015. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team will be at Utah State on Wednesday, coming off a win and a loss in the Cancun tournament last week. They beat Tulane first off, and then lost to Loyola Marymount 73-70. Obi Eggman had 23 points for the Pokes. The Cowboys were at one point down by 16 in that game, and then led by 10, and then ran out of gas at the end. And the Wyoming Cowgirls defeated Virginia in the Puerto Rico tournament 71-66. So the Cowgirls won 2 out of 3 in that deal. They beat Drake and then lost to Norfolk State and then came back and beat Virginia. That's a pretty good win. William Peterson with 23, Allison Fertig with 22. They'll take on Missouri State coming up on Friday. That's it in sports.
So we had a whole conversation going here while you were off doing sports stuff about tipping, because even some people who work in various industries like waiters, waitresses, bartenders, people are getting sick of every time you go to swipe your card somewhere, there's that tip option.
Yeah, so what you do is you hit custom.
Yes.
And 0.
Okay. Or you can just, in some places, skip it. It turns out these are the credit card companies that are mainly doing this to you.
Yeah, I found that out like going to a ball game.
Oh, yeah.
Hit custom, they want, 10%, 20%, 15%.
Yes.
Hit custom and give them $2.
Okay.
You're not getting a tip from me at a coffee store selling me a gift card.
Okay.
Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You're not getting a tip from me at Burger King or McDonald's or Wendy's.
Right.
Don't even think about it.
Okay. I even think about that when I went to a coffee shop and I paid the girl, and then she pointed over to where I go self-serve. And then it asked me as I'm swiping my card, do I want to leave a tip? And I'm thinking, no, she's having me go over there and do it all myself. She's not even pouring the coffee. So why would I do that?
The coffee machine was the self-serve?
Yeah. They had like 4 different flavors of coffee out there. So I pay her, and then I'm supposed to go over and grab the cup myself and pick one myself.
No tip on that one either.
No, none whatsoever. No. Okay. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local. It's Wake Up Wyoming.